Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to decode a deeply relatable and honestly pretty frustrating biological mystery. Today, we're looking at the addictive anatomy of heartbreak. Specifically, we're unpacking the neurological reasons why we just can't seem to let go of toxic relationships. You know the ones. Have you ever noticed something incredibly weird about how human attachment works? I mean, think about the people who treated us the absolute best, the ones who were consistent, kind, totally reliable. We actually move on from them pretty quickly when things end. Like, sure, we appreciate them, but they don't exactly haunt us, do they? But then there's the other side of the coin. Why on earth do we completely obsess over the ones who confused us? The ones who ignored us, hurt us, or, disappeared for 3 whole hours only to text back, "Sorry, fell asleep." Somehow, these people stay lodged in our heads like a catchy song we never actually wanted to memorize. Why does the heart act like it just totally forgot all the damage they caused? Section 1. The Paradox of Heartbreak. So to understand this, we've really got to peel back the layers of this paradox, because on the surface, it makes absolutely zero logical sense to crave someone who causes you emotional stress, like it's their full-time job. But when we look closer, we see this isn't a personal failure. It's actually a deeply ingrained biological and neurological response. Think about this comparison: missing the person versus missing the feeling. Take horror movies for a second. Nobody watches a terrifying horror movie and says, "Wow, I genuinely loved being scared out of my mind." Yet somehow, they still buy a ticket for part 2. Why? Because humans are beautifully strange. When someone hurts us, our brain doesn't always cleanly separate the pain from the attachment. If that person also gave us love, comfort, or just those tiny moments of feeling special, the brain actually misses the feeling of that comfort, not necessarily the person themselves. So the crucial point here is unpredictability. It's a pattern of inconsistent emotional rewards that actively trains your brain to continuously chase the next positive interaction. Your brain literally becomes addicted to unpredictability, not stable love. It's the exact same biological reason people keep refreshing a social media feed even when nobody has messaged them. Your brain is desperately chasing that next emotional reward, constantly thinking, well, maybe today they'll care. Maybe today they'll finally change. Which brings us to the devastating power of the letter K. One day, this unpredictable person makes you feel like the most important human being in the world. The next day, you pour your absolute heart out to them, and they reply with K. Just one single letter of the alphabet, and your entire mood collapses like a weak Wi-Fi signal. That dramatic spike of joy followed by a sudden, massive crash, that is the exact emotional roller coaster your brain is getting hooked on. Because of that addiction to hope, a massive shift happens in how you perceive things. Loving reality versus loving potential. When you're hooked on an unpredictable reward cycle, you actually stop loving reality. You stop looking at what actually happened, the pain, the ghosting. Instead, you start loving the potential, that imaginary what-if future where everything finally works out. Letting go feels absolutely impossible because in your mind, you're not just losing a person, you are losing the entire imaginary future you built. Section 2, the brain as a detective. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when that imagined future slips away. Your mind violently shifts gears and goes into absolute overdrive trying to make sense of the senseless. We've all been there, right? Sitting up at 2 a.m., looking at a message that says, "take care," with a period instead of a heart emoji, and thinking, wait, what did she mean by that? We start replaying conversations from 8 months ago, acting like over-caffeinated detectives trying to solve a true crime documentary. Honestly, we need to look in the mirror and say, relax, Sherlock. Not everything is a hidden clue. But our emotions force us to overanalyze everything because rejection deeply, deeply hurts. What's really driving this late-night detective work is what we can call the canceled TV show effect. Humans have a fundamental biological hatred for unfinished stories. Think about how agonizing it is when you invest time into 5 whole seasons of a show and it gets canceled on a massive cliffhanger. It's painful. Relationships without proper closure are the exact same thing to your brain. It just keeps frantically searching for answers. What did I do wrong, or could I have fixed it? Even when there are absolutely no answers to be found. Section 3, attached to the habit. We really have to look past just the pain of an unfinished story and understand the biological reality of habit formation. When you're entangled with someone, they occupy a massive amount of your daily brain space. You weren't just attached to a person, you were biologically attached to the routine. The morning texts, the late-night calls, sending memes back and forth, the random "did you eat" messages, even the arguments. Your brain expects these events. So when the person leaves, you miss the habit so deeply that the sudden silence in your daily life feels incredibly loud. But here is a vital piece of advice to keep in mind. Just because you crave junk food doesn't mean your body needs it. Your emotions can totally lie to you. Feeling an intense craving for a toxic person is just a biological response to a broken habit and a withdrawal of dopamine. It absolutely does not mean you should go back to them. You can miss someone and still know with complete certainty that they were bad for you. Section 4. The Nostalgia Movie Editor. When you're just sitting there in the quiet of a broken routine, loneliness starts to sneakily manipulate your memories. Your brain literally becomes a movie editor. It intentionally keeps the laughs, the compliments, the hugs. It creates this beautiful highlight reel. But look at what it ruthlessly cuts out. The anxiety, the disrespect, the nights you spent crying wondering why you weren't enough. Nostalgia is so dangerous because it can make you romanticize an environment that nearly destroyed you, effectively erasing the reality of the toxicity. When the movie editor brain makes us think we lost something perfect, we often take the rejection really personally. We think if we were just better, they would have stayed. But remember this, a flower can't grow in every environment. That doesn't mean the flower is broken. Someone leaving you is almost always a reflection of their own emotional maturity, not your value. Your worth was never supposed to depend on someone's inconsistent attention. I mean, that's like letting one bad restaurant review decide whether or not you know how to cook. It makes no sense. Now, what's really interesting about this next point is that it's probably the hardest truth of all. Sometimes you aren't actually missing them at all. You miss the version of yourself you are with them. You miss the person who laughed more, who felt hopeful, who truly believed in love back then. When they left, it felt like they packed up that happy version of you and took it away. But they didn't. That version of you still exists entirely. It's just hurt right now. Section 5. The Reality of Healing. So, what does biologically breaking this addiction actually look like in real life? Well, the healing journey is absolutely not a straight line. Day 1, you might feel completely fine. Day 14, you hear one specific song or smell a certain perfume. Day 15, absolute emotional damage. You're suddenly staring at the ceiling, questioning every life decision you've made since 2019. But by day 60, you might finally stop creating those fake conversations in your head. This zigzag is totally normal. Your neural pathways are slowly rewiring themselves, and sudden triggers can launch a mental reunion tour without any warning. But eventually, the pain gets quieter because you simply stop feeding the memories. As you heal, you'll reach a point where you really have to understand the difference between chaos love and peaceful love. Because your heart was trained by unpredictability, it expects emotional gymnastics. It expects the drama, the mixed signals, and those magic act disappearances. And because of that, when you finally find healthy love, honesty, clear communication, safety, it might actually feel kind of boring at first. But real love isn't an intense, dramatic roller coaster. Real love is simply feeling safe. Peace is incredibly underrated. Which brings us to our final powerful takeaway for today. Stop reopening doors that only led to pain. Missing someone doesn't mean they belong in your life, it just means they mattered to you. A scar can hurt from time to time without meaning the wound needs to be ripped wide open again. The strongest thing you can do for your brain and your heart is to recognize the addiction, embrace the peace, and leave those painful doors firmly closed. So here's my question to you. What closed door in your life do you need to stop checking today? Let that sink in. Catch you on the next